The All-American Half Pounder, 2 pure beef patties, lettuce, tomato.
Singles going steady.
This is Singles Going Steady, the podcast dedicated to exploring great singles with a particular eye to the punk, new wave, and DIY eras of the last century. I'm Adrienne Madoc.
And I'm Steve McGowan. We are in a band, the Beef People, who released a single in 1986 on our own label, Zub Records, and we are record collectors and passionate especially about the expression of pop music perfection that is the single recording. Exploring the mystery of what makes a great single is what propelled us to begin this podcast. And this is episode number 2002.
And who are we going steady with today?
Today we are speaking about Elvis Costello and the Attractions and their fine cover of the Smokey Robinson song From Head to Toe, and the B-side of the song, a Thomas Schumann song called The World of Broken Hearts.
Oh, this is a goodie. This is a really good
a favorite
single
for both of us. But just before we get discussing the Elvis single, we want to talk a little bit about why we call this show Singles Going Steady.
And why do we call it Singles Going Steady?
Well, as best as I can tell, it's because Adrienne and I both love the Buzzcocks album called Singles Going Steady, which features all their A-sides on one side and all the B-sides on the other. It's kind of a touchstone record for us. It's an album full of singles, basically, A and B sides, and that's been kind of the thing we look to.
Yeah, that's our
Northern Star.
Yes, absolutely, our Polaris. And it's funny that it's for a podcast dedicated to singles that it's named after an album,
right?
But it is an album that is a compendium of singles, so it comes full circle.
Anyway, today we are speaking about Elvis Costello and the Attractions, one of our number one artists that we just adore.
And this is one of our favorite singles. I didn't realize this was one of your favorite singles.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So the song From Head to Toe is the A side of the single. It was written by Smokey Robinson. The World of Broken Hearts is the B side. It's a Thomas Schumann song, as I'd mentioned.
And who were they?
Doc Pomus and Mort Schumann, pretty famous songwriters. They wrote a lot of songs for many bands, including the Platters, including the original Elvis Presley.
Were they Brill Building or Brill Building era?
They were that era for sure.
Right.
And they wrote Viva Las Vegas, so really, do you have to say anything else? I mean, once you've hit those pinnacles.
I see Anne Margaret in my mind now.
Exactly. Who can't? Now, why don't we talk a little bit about the sleeve design on this before we talk about the music?
Oh, yeah, because it's spectacular. And that's one of the things that we're going to use as when we make selections of what we want to talk to you about is by looking not just not just what you hear, not just by the sound of
right.
the single, but by looking at the object.
The object itself.
Something that's notable. We'll look at like CD singles and singles, singles,
EPs.
Yeah, and so there'll be, really looking at sort of the rich rainbow that is out there of record releases. And here we've got one that's just a beautiful object by one of the most, storied designers of this era, meaning, like late 70s, early 80s.
Absolutely.
And that's Barney Bubbles. And do you want me to talk a little bit about what the thing looks like?
Yes, please.
This is kind of like the old days of radio, where we're talking about what things look like. But unlike radio, you can go to the website.
Right, and we'll have a link to it.
A great link to where you can see the single itself. And The single design is very much in the style that Barney Bubbles worked in that late 70s, early 80s era, where it's very reductive, influenced a little bit by like 60s advertising from Madison Avenue,
Yes.
late 50s, where you've got a lot of outlines. And I guess in turn that was influenced. I'm not trying to get too art historical here, but, really out of the 20s and found objects and cutouts and collages. Anyway, to get back to what this one looks like.
Right.
It's purple and orange, complementary colors, and since the name of the single is From Head to Toe, it is the outline of a foot that laces up as if it were a shoe.
Exactly.
And you've got the outline with the name of the band appearing on the cover, and obviously it's a clever visual play on the name From Head to Toe, because you see the toes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just it's a shoe and a foot in one, and then the shoelaces form
It's a face.
It forms an outline of a face. So there's the head.
Yep.
And it's kind of a Costello-ish
Glasses.
bespeckled face.
It's a cool single.
It's super cool.
Yeah. Barney Bubbles is kind of still an unknown designer. He's not as celebrated as some of the other record sleeve designers, but he did most of the work for Stiff Records, people like Ian Dury and Squeeze and Elvis Costello and Nick Lowe.
Yeah, he was not an employee, so he
Right.
was an independent contractor, even though he was based in the building,
Right.
designed some of the furniture.
Yes, he designed all kinds of things. Yes, and was pretty amazing artist. We'll talk a little bit about a book of about him towards the end of the podcast.
And another one of the sort of the echoes I see in the design, and not to just keep harping on that, is movie titles. I think were very influential on this
Yes.
design. Specifically, Saul Bass, who, if you saw more recently, Down with Love, which really, and Catch Me If You Can, where those titles were very much
Right.
an echo of those classic 50s and 60s Saul Bass movie titles, which were quasi-animated, a lot of paper cutout design, and we'll post a link to information about Saul Bass. Exodus, I think, is one of the films
Yes.
that particularly was striking that you might be familiar with Saul Bass title designs.
Okay, so we've discussed a little bit about the cover, about the single itself, the way it looks. Let's talk a little bit about the music contained within. The A-side, again, From Head to Toe. Before we tackle the Elvis and the Attractions version, we're going to listen to a little bit of the original, which was done by Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. It's on the Motown label, came out in 1965 on the Going to a Go-Go record, and the song is called From Head to Toe. Here's Smokey and the Miracles.
Well, now you're the girl I'm simply mad about. Oh, yes, I'm really glad as can be. Oh, yeah. I hope that you've been getting ready, 'cause I'm gonna ask you to go steady with me. Oh, baby. I got two eyes that happen to spy you, and when they did, they couldn't deny you were fine, fine, fine. I got two lips that long to kiss you, and when they speak, they say they wish you were mine. Hey, sweet baby. Hey, sweet baby. Oh, don't you know? Oh, don't you know that I am yours from head to toe? I got a little heart inside me beating, and with each beat it keeps repeating your name. Hey, baby, you better believe what I'm saying, 'cause baby, don't you know that I'm not playing the game?
was not a hit for Smokey and the Miracles. This was a fairly obscure track, even though you've got a Motown artist. And, this is really an example of how the British love our obscure soul records,
yes,
and Southern records, and to be able to take them, listen to them, appreciate them in a way that really a wide audience doesn't necessarily, mainstream audience in the 60s didn't pick up on many of these great songs. They call them, they re-record them, and they send them back to us,
right.
Really to encourage us to sort of learn more about ourselves.
Yeah, the subculture in Britain is called Northern Soul.
Yes, and Northern Soul, I guess it's sort of akin, I was thinking, to like beach music in the Carolinas, where it's a very regional niche that where you've got rabid appreciation for these
in the north of England.
Yeah, so it's the north of England rather than the south of the United States.
The north of England scours the south of the United States for obscure rhythm and blues and soul records.
And absolutely, there's an appreciation, and you can see bits of Northern Soul culture that we get glimpses of. I saw the new Nick Hornby film, Juliet Naked, based on the novel, and there's a great scene with Northern Soul dancers in the pub. So it's just sort of like one of those very English casts of locals, Northern Soul. But what it gives to us is that this thread that runs through the singles that we really enjoy, and sort of encouraging us to turn on to the original recordings and the original artists.
Yeah, the point I would make is a lot of people who are really into music, like Adrian and myself, a lot of people learn about rhythm and blues and the real American soul and rhythm and blues music through the British artists. We filter it back through reverse osmosis. I mean, obviously the Beatles did Smokey Robinson songs, and they did Arthur Alexander songs and Little Richard songs. And then we learned by listening to the Beatles about the music that was here in our own backyard, because they appreciated it and they gave it back to us. And Elvis is kind of doing the same thing with this single.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Yeah. One of the things he was saying, when I read the liner notes on one of the CDs, Elvis and the Attractions had just finished the Imperial Bedroom record, which is a very produced, orchestrated record, kind of like a later Beatles type thing. Jeff Emmerich, who worked with the Beatles, produced
it's not a coincidence that it calls that to mind.
So they had been in the studio for them for a long time, making this amazing record. And I think they needed a little break, a little get back to where you belong, and they cut this single, which is just bare bones and it doesn't sound like it has any overdubs.
And pure joy. It's purely, it's sort of unrestrained and joyful.
Right. So let's go ahead and listen to Elvis Costello and the Attractions and their version of the Smokey Robinson song. It was released in 1982. in the UK on F-Beat Records, Elvis's label. And we're going to hear it now. From head to toe, Elvis and the Attractions.
Oh, well, now you're the girl I'm simply mad about. Oh, yes, I'm really glad it's been me. Oh, yeah, I hope that you've been getting ready, 'cause I'm gonna ask you to go steady with me. I got two eyes that happened by you, and when they saw you, they said they knew you were fine. I got two lips that long to kiss you, and when they speak, they say they wish you were mine. Hey, sweet baby, hey, sweet baby. Oh, don't you know, that I am yours from head to toe. I got a little heart inside me beating, and when it speaks it keeps repeating your name all the time. You better watch out 'cause of what I'm saying, 'Cause baby, don't you know that I ain't playing a game? Hey, sweet baby, oh, don't you know that I am yours from head to toe, all the way down, from the top to the ground. Sweet baby, sweet baby, oh, I got 2 legs and I got 2 feet that always take me to your street every day, all the time. No matter which way I try to go, my legs and my feet, they seem to know the way. Hey, sweet baby, oh, don't you know that I am yours from head to toe, all the way down, from the top to the ground. Hey, sweet baby, hey, sweet baby, yeah, I am yours from head to toe. Hey, sweet baby, yeah, I am yours.
Oh my goodness, what a fantastic single that is. And I remember,
Absolutely.
I got that when I was in college, the local record store and cool record store in Chapel Hill, and just played the ever-loving grooves off that single and danced around the dorm room singing in the hairbrush like I was 12. It was just, unadulterated joy.
Yes, this one spent a lot of time on my turntable. I played it a lot, and then I played it so much that I had to move it to the cassette tape, kids. We put it on the cassette, and I wore the cassette out. I mean, it's just it's one of those songs that I listened to over and over, and I didn't get tired of.
And it's always fresh. When you hear it,
Yeah.
it's always fresh.
Happy, yep. One of the things I like about this is Elvis is approaching the rhythm and blues. He's not using that kind of depressed angle that he used on Get Happy.
The ironically
Right.
titled Get Happy.
Yeah, which is not really a happy record at all, but is done in that Stax Volt soul mode. This is just joyful.
Yes.
As you said, and it's really, it's a real uplifting type of song. I like it very, very much. He says that he had been listening to a lot of English Mersey beat that covered this sort of thing. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, and it's funny that we're getting sort of access to some of the more obscure soul cuts, the deeper cuts, through artists like Elvis making these great selections. I mean, he
Right.
really is a curator in a
Yes.
way. I mean, that's an overused term now.
Yes.
But I mean, he truly is a curator of absolutely stellar songwriting, no matter where it comes from,
I agree.
no matter what its roots. But he got to it seems, through his local music,
Right.
out of Mersey Beat.
Yes,
So
yes.
everybody's got their different gateway
Right.
into the real thing.
So we're going to switch gears now, and we're going to talk about the B-side of the single. It's called "Living in the World of Broken Hearts." It is the Doc Pomus Mort Schumann song. The first version we can find of it is from 1966 on the Congress label. It's by Cissy Houston. Tell us a little bit about Cissy.
Sissy's still with us, and Sissy is Whitney's mom,
Wow.
and also Dionne Warwick's aunt.
Wow.
So
That's a pedigree.
that is an incredible pedigree.
Yes.
But Sissy, I guess this really is an attempt to break her as a pop artist,
Right.
in the mid '60s, and I don't think she ever really got a foothold there. A little more well known in the world of gospel music.
Okay, well, we're going to listen to just a little bit of Cissy Houston doing "The World of Broken Hearts," 1966. Here we go.
Every night you'll find me in the only world I own. It's a crowded place that's filled with people all alone.
Well, that was quite an interesting little track there. She starts off all sweet and beautiful, and then a minute
switch is
in,
thrown. The
she's
switch is
completely
thrown.
blowing out the microphone. It's like, wow.
Is it really sort of absolutely bipolar,
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah, really.
And with no pause in between. It's 180 in either
Yeah.
direction.
Now, I don't think you're going to hear that arrangement in the Elvis version, but where he says in the notes that he cribbed his arrangement from is from a band from 1967. A Welsh band called Amen Corner that doesn't have anything to do with the Masters. I didn't know that was even a thing with Welsh bands. I didn't know there were any Welsh bands.
Well, you may not know this, but the Medoc heritage, without the fancy French pronunciation, is said to be Welsh. So,
Wow.
these are my people.
Okay. All right, so you come from a long line of dragon slayers.
That's true.
Okay, good.
Continuing on the same route.
All right, well, this is a similar arrangement, I think, that you're going to hear from Elvis and the Attractions, but we're going to listen to a little bit of The World of Broken Hearts by Amen Corner from Wales, 1967.
Every night you'll find me in the only world I own. It's a crowded place that's filled with people all alone. It's a place that I could write a book about. Once they let you in, you'll find there's no way out. Pray you don't get in, 'cause there's no way out. No, there's no way out, no way out. When you're living in a world of broken hearts, living in a world of broken hearts, all broken hearts. Those who enter here are told to leave their dreams behind. You may never get to sleep again, so you don't mind. It's a place that I could write a book about. Once they let you in, you'll find there's no way out. Pray you don't get in, 'cause there's no way out. No, there's no way out, no way out. When you're living in a world of broken hearts, living in a world of broken hearts, all broken hearts.
Okay, that was Amen Corner and their version of The World of Broken Hearts. And a very similar arrangement, I think, as you're going to hear.
Well, I can't let those are my Welsh people.
Okay.
And I've got reminds me of a story from my youth. when supposedly there's a great Welsh traditional story.
Allegedly.
It's pretty true. That several centuries before Leif Erikson is said to have discovered the northern hemisphere, or at least for Europeans to have found the northern hemisphere, and you can dispute the whole notion of how colonial the notion of discovery is.
Right,
I'll
right.
leave that for the comment section.
That's not for us to decide.
Right, we'll leave that for public debate.
Yes.
But Prince Madoc is said to have landed in Greenland and even in Newfoundland almost 400 years before Leif Erikson made his journeys.
Really?
Yeah, so my interpretation was that anyone who wanted any land in the Northern Hemisphere would have to come through me because it was, it was the family heritage.
I see.
So you interested in a little property, great grandpa, the prince.
Wow.
All of this is mine.
That is quite a yarn you've got there.
It
Adrian.
is, and you can tell why I was so incredibly popular.
Right, exactly. So I would like to just stop that bus right now, and let's get back to the music. This is the B side of the single, Elvis Costello and the Attractions. We're finally going to hear his version of The World of Broken
there's more
Hearts.
Welsh stories to come.
Welsh free, The World of Broken Hearts. Here we go.
Every night you'll find me in the only world I own. It's a crowded place that's filled with people all alone. It's a place that I could write a book about. When they let you in, you find there's no way out. There you don't get in, 'cause there's no way out. There's no way out, no way out. When you're in a world of broken hearts, in a world of broken hearts, of broken hearts, of broken hearts. Those who enter here are told to leave their dreams behind. You may never get to sleep again, but you don't mind. It's a place that I could write a book about. When they let you in, you find there's no way out. Where you don't get in, 'cause there's no way out. 'Cause there's no way out, no way out. When you're in a world of broken hearts, in a world of broken hearts, of broken hearts, of broken hearts. In a world of broken hearts, in a world of broken hearts, in a world of broken hearts, of broken hearts, of broken hearts. Oh, in a world of broken hearts, in a world of broken hearts, in a world of broken hearts, in a world of broken hearts.
It occurs to me in listening to that with this single we have an A-side that really owes itself sort of its heritage to the album Get Happy.
Yes.
And we talked about that with that celebration of soul music.
Yeah, he's
Stax
getting
Rolls.
back to the basics.
Yeah.
Back to the roots music.
But that B-side really, despite the bones we have here with Sissy Houston
Right.
and
Amen
Mercy
Corner.
Beat cover, is that that really is just a plaintive wail, the sort of
Yes.
crooning, bawling type music that you heard on Almost Blue.
Yeah, a very dramatic sort of ballad.
Yeah,
And Elvis just loves that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean,
don't we all?
he's a performer. And we love to hear him do it, So that's...
Spotlight, please, sort
yes,
of
yes.
song.
we had watched a little bit of the Elvis talk show that he had called
Spectacle.
And he was lucky enough to have Smokey Robinson on, and Smokey came and played with the Imposters. And did a few songs. It was
He's
stunningly
got it.
good,
He's
wasn't it?
It's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes.
His voice.
It's as good as ever.
It may be better
Yes.
because it really has. It's lived in, but it's not lost any
not
of
worn
the
out.
control. Right, lived in, but not worn.
Right, and I mean, the man just has written some of the best songs ever. There's no doubt about that. So we'll post a link to that so you can check it out and hear Elvis mugging it up with him. You can tell Elvis is just
Eating it
thrilled
up.
to be next to one of his idols.
And I mean, he's so fortunate that he had sort of had that platform to talk to his favorite performers and songwriters and talk to them about songwriting and to perform with them.
Right. So, it's the part of the podcast where we talk about our recommendations.
The persons, places, or things.
It could be, yes.
You got a person, place, or thing?
I think you should go first.
Okay, I have I guess a thing. Which
It is
would
a thing.
it is the thing.
Yes.
Which is FX television series called Legion.
Yes, TV show.
Oh yeah, the showrunner Noah Hawley, you may know from Fargo.
Yes.
But he has adapted, from the Marvel universe. The
Yes,
story
but don't
of,
be afraid of it.
Oh, because that's not me. I'm not.
Me
like,
neither.
I am not like superhero lady.
No.
Although I do enjoy Cape.
Well,
right?
who
Cape,
doesn't?
Right.
That's another story.
Hopefully you'll hear. But anyway, Legion is just masterfully done. It's
I agree.
Visually stunning. The acting is
The plot twists are amazing.
yeah, it's just a magnificent sort of Fabergé egg of storytelling.
And who's in it?
Well, it stars Dan Stevens, and if you know him from Downton Abbey, forget that because he just plays this tortured soul that's got.
You would never know. You never know he was British.
Right, yeah, with an American accent. It's he's wonderful in it, and just incredible range.
Aubrey Plaza.
Aubrey Plaza.
Rawr.
Oh yeah, and she's great, and Jean Smart.
Yes.
And Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords.
Jermaine.
He's always spectacular.
He's the best.
But I'm not going to just list the cast for you. I'll list a link. But
Right.
You need to catch up. Series 3 will be coming in 2019.
And we want Noah to know that the Beef People will be happy to do any of the soundtrack work for him.
Oh, you want to talk about a curator? His selection of music is just. If you're listening to this, you'll love the music that is in the series.
Absolutely. My recommendation is, I think we have a dual recommendation before I get to mine. There is a store here in Durham that we visited yesterday.
Yeah.
Speaking of Northern Soul, it is called
Carolina Soul.
Carolina Soul. It's here in Durham on downtown.
Yeah.
And
It's 117 East Main Street.
a small little store.
We know that because we kept looking
Yes.
for. We went to 117 West Main
Yes,
Street,
yeah.
and they were like, "You need the
You
other
meet
one
over there. Great store. They have the most obscure soul stuff. I mean, stuff that's.
And,
I mean,
they know their stuff because
Yes.
we were asking for something in particular, like, oh yeah, we've had several of those go
Right,
through, but they
right.
go very quickly.
Right.
So it's like, wow, this is the place to be because it's obviously a haven for
Yes.
people who love the sort of thing that's the backbone of this particular episode.
And I believe they have a pretty big online presence too, so you might want to check that out.
Right. You don't have to come and figure out which 117 Main Street you need to go to. You can do it online, but come on down.
And my recommendation is a book about Barney Bubbles, the designer and artist. It's by Paul Gorman,
Yes.
and it's called Barney Bubbles: Reasons to be Cheerful: The Life and Work of Barney Bubbles. It's an expensive book. It's a large book, an art book. It's fantastic. If you're into record sleeves, cool art, cool design.
But yeah, some of the early
Furniture.
posters.
Hawkwind stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
So if you like those British, I don't even know how to describe Hawkwind.
I know.
But Hawkwind would not have a home on Stiff.
Yes,
but,
no.
But yeah, all of the Stiff posters.
Yes, it's just an amazing book, and if you get a chance, check it out very, very much. So, this has been Singles Going Steady podcast number 002, Elvis Costello and the Attractions from Head to Toe in the World of Broken Hearts. My name is Steve McGowan.
I'm Adrienne Madoc.
And we will talk to you soon.
Talk to you later.
Bye now. To learn more about the artists and recordings we just talked about, visit our website at zubrecords.com and click on the Singles Going Steady icon.
You'll also find links to the persons, places, and things we recommend, and much more.
You can find episodes of Singles Going Steady on our website or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Singles Going Steady is brought to you by the power and majesty of Zub Records. Zub Records. Smart sounds for sharp people.